Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. The College of Thelema has attributed to each of the 22 days of the Thelemic holy season, from March 20th through April 10th, one of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, a tarot trump, and a sacred writing. It is recommended that on each of these days for the aspirant to prominently display the corresponding tarot card and conduct such other meditation, ritual, or other recognition of the principle as they see fit. The Thelemic Order is publicly presenting a reading of the sacred text and a short discussion of the letter and the trump on each of these days. For March 30th, the recommended reading is Liber Librae. The Hebrew letter is Lamed, and the tarot trump is A28 Adjustment. After the reading of Liber Librae, stay for a short discussion on the significance of the text, the Hebrew letter, and the trump associated with this day. Liber Librae, the Book of Balance, Subfigura 30, AA publication in Class B. Learn first, O thou who aspirest into our ancient order, that equilibrium is the basis of the work. If thou thyself hast not a sure foundation, whereon wilt thou stand to direct the forces of nature? Know then that as a man is born into this world amidst the darkness of matter, and the strife of contending forces, so must his first endeavor be to seek the light through their reconciliation. Thou then, who hast trials and troubles, rejoice because of them, for in them is strength, and by their means is a pathway opened into that light. How should it be otherwise, O man, whose life is but a day in eternity, a drop in the ocean of time? How, were thy trials not many, couldst thou purge thy soul from the dross of earth? Is it but now that the higher life is beset with dangers and difficulties? Hath even not ever been so with the sages and hierophants of the past? They have been persecuted and reviled. They have been tormented of men. Yet through this also has their glory increased. Rejoice therefore, O initiate, for the greater thy trial, the greater thy triumph. When men shall revile thee and speak against thee falsely, hath not the Master said, Blessed art thou? Yet, O aspirant, let thy victories bring thee not vanity, for with increase of knowledge should come increase of wisdom. He who knoweth little thinketh he knoweth much, but he who knoweth much hath learned his own ignorance. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him. Be not hasty to condemn others. How knowest thou that in their place thou couldst have resisted the temptation? And even if it were so, why shouldest thou despise one who is weaker than thyself? Thou therefore who desirest magical gifts, be sure that thy soul is firm and steadfast. For it is by flattering thy weaknesses that the weak ones will gain power over thee. Humble thyself before thyself, yet fear neither man nor spirit. Fear is failure, and the forerunner of failure, and courage is the beginning of virtue. Therefore fear not the spirits, but be firm and courteous with them, for thou hast no right to despise or revile them, and this too may lead thee astray. Command and banish them, curse them by the great names if need be, but neither mock nor revile them, for so assuredly wilt thou be led into error. A man is what he maketh himself within the limits fixed by his inherited destiny. He is part of mankind. His actions affect not only what he calleth himself, but also the whole universe. Worship and neglect not the physical body, which is thy temporary connection to the outer and material world. Therefore let thy mental equilibrium be above disturbance by material events. Strengthen and control the animal passions. Discipline the emotions and the reason. Nourish the highest our aspirations. Do good unto others for its own sake, not for reward, not for gratitude from them, not for sympathy. If thou art generous, thou wilt not long thine ears to be tickled by expressions of gratitude. Remember that unbalanced force is evil, that unbalanced severity is but cruelty and oppression, but that also unbalanced mercy is but weakness which should be allowed, and albeit evil. Act passionately, think rationally, be thyself. True ritual is much action as word, it is will. Remember that this earth is but an atom in the universe, and that thou thyself art but an atom thereon. and that even couldst thou become the god of this earth, whereon thou crawlest and grovellest, that thou wouldst even then be but an atom, and one amongst many. Nevertheless, have the greatest self-respect, and to that end sin not against thyself. The sin which is unpardonable is knowingly and willingly to reject truth, to fear knowledge, lest that knowledge pander not to thy prejudices. To obtain magical power, learn to control thought. Admit only those ideas that are in harmony with the end desired, and not every stray and contradictory idea that presents itself. Fixed thought is a means to an end. Therefore pay attention to the power of silent thought and meditation. The material act is but the outward expression of thy thought, and therefore hath it been said that the thought of foolishness is sin. Thought is the commencement of action, and if a chance thought can produce much effect, what cannot fixed thought do? Therefore, as thou hast already said, establish thyself firmly in the equilibrium of forces, in the center of the cross of the elements, that cross from whose center the creative word is issued in the birth of the dawning universe. Be thou therefore prompt and active as the sylphs, but avoid frivolity and caprice. Be energetic and strong like the salamanders, but avoid irritability and ferocity. Be flexible and attentive to images like the undines, but avoid idleness and changeability. Be laborious and patient like the gnomes, but avoid grossness and avarice. So shalt thou gradually develop the powers of the soul, and fit thyself to command the spirits of the elements. For wert thou to summon the gnomes to pander to thine avarice, wouldst thou no longer command them, but they would command thee. Wouldst thou abuse the pure beings of the woods and mountains to fill thy coffers and satisfy thy hunger of gold? Wouldst thou debase the spirits of living fire to serve thy wrath and hatred? Wouldst thou violate the purity of the souls of the waters to pander to thy lust of debauchery? Wouldst thou force the spirits of the evening breeze to minister to thy folly and caprice? Know that with such desires thou canst but attract the weak, not the strong, and in the case of the weak will have power over thee. In the true religion there is no sect. Therefore take heed that thou blaspheme not the name by which another knoweth his God. For if thou do this, then in Jupiter thou wilt blaspheme Yod-Heh-Voh-Heh, and Osiris Yahshua. Ask, and ye shall have. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Liber Librae is Liber 30, or the Book of Balance. 30 is the number of the Hebrew letter Lamed, which relates to the tarot card adjustment, and is the astrological sign of Libra. Both of these refer to equilibrium, with Libra's symbol being the scales of the balance. Liber Librae was first published publicly in the Equinox Volume 1, Number 1, on the spring equinox of 1909. It is based on the general guidance and purification of the soul that was part of the fourth knowledge lecture given in the 3=8 Practicus degree in the Golden Dawn. Parts of it, lines 19 and 20, are from the 2=9 Theoricus initiation as adapted from Levy's Transcendental Magic, Part 2, Chapter 4, The Conjuration of the Four. Crowley described the text as Karma Yoga, an elementary course of morality suitable for the average man. The Hebrew letter Lamed means goad or prod, and is a fitting tool to provide moral guidance and continued vigilance upon the path. Crowley goes on to say of the card adjustment in the Book of Thoth, "In the greatest symbolism of all, however, the symbolism beyond all planetary and zodiacal considerations, this card is the feminine complement of the Fool, for the letters Aleph Lamed constitute the secret key of the Book of the Law, and this is the basis of a complete Kabbalistic system of greater depth and sublimity than any other. The details of this system have not yet been revealed." The figure on the card is none other than the goddess Maat. Crowley says, "She is crowned with the ostrich plumes of Maat, and the Egyptian goddess of justice, and on her forehead is the Uraeus serpent, lord of life and death." Friar Akkad, who discovered the key of it all to Liber All, is also claimed to have ushered in the Aeon of Ma'at to follow and coexist alongside the Aeon of Horus. Does Mott provide the counterforce for Horus in this coming eon rolls out? Love is the law, love under will.